McLaren just created an upgrade that no other team can copy. Not because they don't want to, because they can't. A completely new car, hidden under the same name. A redesign so aggressive, it unlocks up to 25 extra kilowatts from the exact same engine Mercedes uses. And here's the part that makes this insane. They fixed their biggest weakness, at the exact moment the FIA changed the rules to slow everyone else down. This isn't a normal upgrade. This is a perfectly timed transformation. And if the simulation data is real, McLaren isn't catching up. They're about to shock the entire grid, in one single race. It started with a contradiction. Because McLaren wasn't supposed to be here. They were the reigning champions. The team that finished the previous season on top. The team that should have started strong, confident, ahead. And yet, after 3 races, they weren't fighting for wins. They were third. Behind Mercedes. Behind Ferrari. And not just slightly behind, clearly behind. That's the kind of gap that doesn't come from one mistake. It comes from something deeper. Something structural. And McLaren knew it immediately. Because the problem wasn't visible on the outside. It was built into the DNA of the car. The MCL40 was designed to be different. Shorter. More compact. More agile. A concept built around corner speed, responsiveness, precision. On paper, it sounded perfect. In reality, it created a hidden weakness. Because in this new era of Formula One, performance doesn't come from what you see. It comes from underneath. The floor. That's where downforce is generated. That's where lap time is created. And a shorter car? Means a smaller floor. Less surface area. Less aerodynamic load. Which means less grip, exactly in the corners that define performance. Medium speed corners. The kind that decide entire laps. So while Mercedes and Ferrari were building stability from the ground up, McLaren was fighting to find it. And that's where the first problem appeared. But it didn't stop there. Because to compensate for that lack of downforce, they added more aerodynamic load elsewhere. And that created a second problem. Drag. Too much resistance on the straights. So now the car had a double weakness. Not enough grip in corners. And not enough speed on straights to compensate. And that's the worst combination you can have. But the real shock came from somewhere else. The engine. Because McLaren had the exact same power unit as Mercedes. Same hardware. Same potential. And yet, not the same performance. Which doesn't make sense. Until you understand one thing. In Formula One, power isn't just about the engine. It's about how you use it. Energy deployment. Software. Timing. Integration with the chassis. And McLaren hadn't fully unlocked that system. They were leaving performance on the table. Every lap. Every race. So now you have the full picture. A car with less downforce. More drag. And incomplete engine performance. Trying to compete with the fastest teams on the grid. That's not a small problem. That's a fundamental limitation. And most teams would try to fix it step by step. A new wing here. A small tweak there. Gradual improvements. But McLaren didn't do that. They went all in. They stopped thinking in terms of upgrades and started thinking in terms of transformation. Because during the break before Miami, they didn't just improve the car. They rebuilt its concept. And that decision is what makes everything that comes next so different. And this is where McLaren did something no one expected. They didn't try to fix the old car. They replaced it. Not literally, but conceptually. Because when Andrea Stella says this is a completely new car, he's not talking about small upgrades. He's talking about a full aerodynamic reset. And everything starts with the floor. The most important part of a Formula One car in this era. The part that defines how air flows underneath, how downforce is generated, how the car sticks to the track. McLaren didn't adjust it. They redesigned it from zero. A completely new structure. A new way of guiding airflow. A new way of generating load, without increasing drag. Now that might sound like every team's goal. But here's the difference. Most teams are trapped by their original concept. Their car geometry, their length, their airflow philosophy, limits what they can change mid-season. McLaren isn't trapped. Because their original concept was already different. Shorter. More compact. Which means the way air moves under their car is unique. So when they redesign the floor, they're not just improving efficiency. They're creating a solution that only works on their car. That's why other teams can't copy it. Not because they don't understand it, but because their cars aren't built to make it work. They would have to redesign everything around it. And in the middle of a season, that's impossible. But the floor is just the beginning. Because once you change how air flows underneath the car, you have to change everything around it. The rear wing, redesigned to reduce drag without losing stability. The side pods, reshaped to control airflow and handle extreme heat in Miami. The cooling system, optimized for temperatures that can destroy performance over a race distance. Every piece connected. Every change dependent on the others. This isn't an upgrade package. It's an ecosystem. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because when everything works together, the gains don't add up. They multiply. But there's one part of this transformation that's even more important. And almost nobody will see it. The engine integration. Because McLaren didn't change the engine. They changed how they use it. Working directly with Mercedes engineers, they rebuilt the software that controls energy deployment. New maps. New timing. New strategies. All designed specifically for their car. And the result is something that sounds almost impossible. More power, from the same engine. Between 15 and 25 kilowatts of effective gain in key moments. That's not a small improvement. That's the kind of difference you feel immediately. On corner exit. On acceleration. On every straight. And suddenly, the weakness they had at the start of the season disappears. Now combine everything. A new floor solving the downforce problem. Aero changes reducing drag. Engine integration unlocking hidden performance. And a car that behaves more predictably for the drivers. It's not the same machine anymore. And that's exactly why Miami is so important. Because this isn't just the debut of an upgrade. It's the first time this new concept faces reality. Against Ferrari. Against Mercedes. Against Red Bull. All bringing their own updates. All trying to solve their own problems. But only one team. Changed everything at once. And if it works, this won't just be a step forward. It will be a leap. One big enough to change where McLaren stands on the grid overnight. But here's where everything becomes unpredictable. Because no matter how powerful an upgrade looks on paper, Formula One doesn't reward theory. It rewards execution. And Miami is the worst possible place to test something this big. One practice session. That's it. 1 hour to understand a car that has been completely redefined. A new floor. New aerodynamics. New energy behavior. New balance. Everything the drivers feel changes. And drivers don't just drive fast cars. They trust them. They build confidence lap after lap. They learn how the car reacts under pressure, under braking, at the limit. Now imagine removing all of that and asking them to perform immediately. That's the risk McLaren is taking. Because if the car behaves exactly as expected, they could unlock everything instantly. But if even one element is slightly off, the entire system becomes difficult to manage. Too much front load, the rear becomes unstable. Too little downforce, tires overheat. Incorrect energy deployment, acceleration feels inconsistent. And in Formula One, those small imbalances don't stay small. They grow. Corner after corner. Lap after lap. Until performance disappears. And here's what makes this even more critical. Miami isn't just a normal weekend. It's a sprint format. Which means less time, more pressure, faster consequences. No room to experiment. No time to reset. Every decision matters immediately. And that creates a situation where even the best upgrade in the world can fail, simply because it wasn't understood in time. But if McLaren gets it right, everything changes. Because while they are taking the biggest risk, they also have the biggest upside. Other teams are evolving. Improving pieces of their cars. Optimizing what already exists. McLaren? They've changed the foundation. And when you change the foundation, you don't gain tenths. You gain potential. The kind of potential that doesn't show fully in one session, but once unlocked, can dominate. And this is where the timing becomes almost perfect. Because the FIA just changed the rules. Reduced boost. Simplified energy systems. Limited some of the extreme advantages other teams relied on. Which means the field compresses. The differences shrink. And in that environment, a team with a completely new concept can break away. Not because they are slightly better, but because they are fundamentally different. And that's the real danger. Because if McLaren understands this car quickly, if Norris and Piastri find confidence early, if the data matches the simulation, then Miami won't just show improvement. It will reveal something no one else has. A performance window that only they can access. And once that window opens, the rest of the grid won't be able to follow. Not immediately. Not without redesigning their own cars. And by the time they even try, it might already be too late. Which leads to the moment everything is building toward. The first qualifying lap. The first real comparison. The first time we see numbers, not theories. Because in that moment, we'll find out if McLaren just created a better car, or something much more dangerous. Something the rest of Formula One wasn't ready for. And this is the moment everything points to. The first real lap. Not in simulation. Not in theory. On track. Because no matter how advanced the upgrade is, no matter how promising the data looks, Formula One only answers one question. Is it faster? And qualifying in Miami will reveal that instantly. One lap. One shot. No hiding. Because this is where McLaren's secret either becomes real or disappears. If the new floor delivers the downforce they expect. If the drag reduction actually works on the long straights. If the engine integration gives them that extra surge out of slow corners. Then something very simple will happen. The timing screens will change. Suddenly, McLaren won't be third anymore. They'll be right there. Matching Ferrari. Matching Mercedes. Maybe even ahead. And that's when everything shifts. Because starting at the front changes everything. Clean air. Control. Strategy in your hands. No traffic. No compromises. That's how races are won. But if they miss it, if the car isn't fully understood, if the balance isn't perfect yet, then all that potential becomes unusable. Fast in some corners, unstable in others, difficult to trust. And in Formula One, a car you can't trust is a car you can't push. So the difference between success and failure isn't just performance, it's confidence. And that's what makes this so intense. Because Norris and Piastri won't have time to build that confidence slowly. They have to find it immediately. Lap by lap. Corner by corner. At full speed. And if they do, then the real impact goes beyond Miami. Because this upgrade isn't designed for one race. It's the foundation for the rest of the season. A new concept. A new direction. A new ceiling of performance. And here's the key detail. Other teams can improve. They can bring updates. They can close gaps. But they can't copy this quickly. Because this isn't a single part. It's a system. A concept built into the entire car. Which means if McLaren unlocks it now, they don't just gain performance. They gain time. Time where they are ahead, while others are still trying to understand. And in Formula One, time is everything. Because once a team gets ahead in development, they don't just stay ahead. They build on it. Race after race. Upgrade after upgrade. And suddenly, what started as a risky decision becomes a championship move. But everything depends on that first moment. That first lap in qualifying. Because that's where we find out the truth. Did McLaren just fix their problems? Or did they create something the rest of the grid can't catch? And when that lap time appears, we'll finally see if this completely new car is just an upgrade, or the beginning of a completely different fight at the front.